What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Ben from Starbase Wraps here, and this video is for those of you that want to do a do-it-yourself wrap for your vehicle. You might be scouring YouTube trying to find different techniques and all that stuff, but before you get started, watch this video so you can see how to properly prepare your vehicle, how to select a quality wrap that's not going to fade or peel, and what tools you're going to need for a quality install. And I also want to say too, I know it can be overwhelming if you're trying to wrap a vehicle for the first time. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. I'll go through all of them and do my best to kind of answer all the questions that you have, especially if it's on like tools, how to prep a vehicle, disassembly, all that type of stuff. Put those comments in this video and I'll go through and answer them all. And while we're on the topic of doing stuff for this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so you decided to wrap your car. Now we need to pick a color. The first thing most people do that are inexperienced, they're gonna go on eBay, they're gonna go on Amazon. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of awesome colors on eBay and Amazon, but those are low quality films. It's gonna make so much headaches for you, trust me. You might find a great color, but it will fade, it will peel. It is gonna be very difficult to install because cheap vinyl is gonna be thicker than a high quality vinyl. So I do not recommend getting film off of eBay or Amazon, unless like you're wrapping your Xbox or something. But if you're doing a whole car, just get a high quality vinyl wrap. It's gonna be easier to install, it's gonna look better for longer, and it's not gonna peel up if you install it correctly. All right, and on the color selection too, I wanna add this point. I would avoid a chrome colored wrap. Now I know they look awesome, especially like on motorcycles and all that stuff, but they are going to be much more difficult to install than a solid color wrap. Even the color shift wraps, they're still relatively easy to install, but a chrome wrap is going to be very difficult to install. Unless you get a high quality one, then it's going to be very expensive to buy. So like an Avery Dennison Conform Chrome, you're talking about like $3,000 for just the material. And if it's your first time, you will make mistakes. So just, get your reps in on a solid color. If you're cut out for it and your vehicle is easy enough to install, you can kind of upgrade to a chrome wrap later, but just stick to a solid color, even a color shift before you just branch out and immediately go to chrome. So now, where do we get good quality wrap? There's two main websites I like to use to purchase all my wrap from, metrorestyling.com and fellers.com. I'm not sponsored by those websites. I'm sure there's other websites out there, but those are just the two that I personally use. And on those websites, there's three brands I really like. Avery Dennison is my favorite, KPMF, and 3M. I've heard great things about Hexus. I have not personally used it, but if you find a color you like, I'm sure it's gonna be great. But the KPMF, Avery Dennison, and 3M, those are the ones I have experience with and I've had great luck with. They don't fade, they don't peel, they look amazing. I mean, this is my Avery Dennison wrap Tesla right here. It just looks freaking awesome. It hasn't peeled up. The finish is fantastic. Just great high quality film, and it is the easiest film to install. Avery Dennison is 100% the easiest film to install. Okay, so now we've got a wrap color figured out. We know what brands are good, where to get them from. You ordered the wrap, it's in your garage. Now what do we need to do to prepare the car to start installing the wrap? Well, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is take off any badges or emblems, right? Like on my car here, I had this plaid emblem, and then there's like a Tesla thing here. So I had to take those off. You don't want to wrap over the emblems. That's going to look crazy. Basically, I just heat up the emblem. I use wide dental floss. I like this Reach Dentalope here. So I'll heat up the emblem. I'll kind of fish this dental floss between the emblem and the paint. I like dental floss because it's wax. You risk not scratching the paint. And then once I get the emblem off, I'll use a rubber wheel on a drill to get the rest of the adhesive off. And then once I get the adhesive off, I'll also polish any scratches or anything from the rubber wheel. Usually there are none, but I just like to polish it up too because a customer will eventually take off the wrap. I don't want to have them find a bunch of surprises like scratch marks where the emblems were or knife cuts or any of that stuff. I want the paint to look pristine when they remove the wrap. So that's my process. So you've got your wrap, we've taken the emblems off of your car. The next thing we need to do is do a very thorough decontamination wash. I like this Adams strip wash here. There's a whole bunch of different decontamination soaps you can use, but I've had pretty good luck with this Adams strip wash. That'll get any waxes or grease or residue off the car. What I'll do is I'll hit it with a foam cannon and then spray it off, foam it again with the strip wash, give it a nice good wash with the wash mitt, rinse it off, wash it again with the wash mitt, and then rinse it off. That'll ensure any waxes or anything gets off the vehicle, so your wrap has the best chance to adhere. Once I get done with the strip wash, I'll dry off the vehicle, and then I like to give it a good clay bar, especially if the vehicle is a couple years or older. The clay bar is going to get any embedded contaminants out of the paint. That way the wrap's going to look the best, it's going to stick the best, and then when they take it off, their paint's going to look awesome. And once you strip wash it, clay bar it, I'm going to spray every panel down with CarPro Eraser. I put it in one of these surface prep bottles right here. So I'm going to do each panel with that. It's basically an alcohol solution to get any, fingerprints, oils, dust, anything the car wash missed, right? Because we don't just want to wash it and start sticking. We want to get around all the edges with the CarPro Eraser, get in all the little nooks and crannies where any dirt might be that the car wash missed. Anywhere that the wrap's going to stick, we're going to want to wipe that with the isopropyl alcohol solution. I personally use CarPro Eraser. It is pricey. You can just basically use like a diluted isopropyl alcohol, but CarPro Eraser is what I like to use. I should add too, I like to have the vehicle sit overnight after a wash. That way all the water can, kind of evaporate and get out of there. Because there's going to be a little bit of water left over in the mirrors and the tail lights, the door handles, the seals. I want to get all that wetness out of the vehicle, so I'll just kind of let it sit overnight, and then I'll start wrapping the next day. And on that next day, that's when I'll do all my, isopropyl alcohol spray down, all that type of stuff. Because you don't want to put vinyl wrap over a wet vehicle. It's going to not stick. And then towels. Towels are important too. I like to use these Rag Company orange towels whenever I'm doing my isopropyl alcohol wipes. You don't want to be using like cheap eBay microfibers to rub the wrap and all that stuff. Like, you're going to scratch the paint with these cheaper microfiber towels. The overall objective, right, this wrap will come off someday. We don't want the customer to have a nervous breakdown because there's knife marks, there's swirl marks from crappy rags and all that stuff. We want their paint to look awesome. We want their vehicle to look awesome. That's the whole point of putting it on the wrap. We want the car to look good, not bad. So invest in some quality rags. Again, I'll put links to the description in this stuff. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but Rag Company rags, these work great for not scratching the paint and wiping off that isopropyl alcohol and all that type of stuff. So the vehicle is all clean and prepared and you're ready to start sticking vinyl on. What is the next step from here? Well, what I like to do, I put vehicles up on quick jacks. I remove the tires, the tail lights, the front bumper, anything that I need to wrap around, I'll just take off of the vehicle. Like on these Teslas too, if you have like a performance model, I'll take the spoiler off and then wrap, and then I'll put new double-sided tape on and stick the spoiler back on. If you're not mechanically inclined or you don't have access to like a lift or anything, you can absolutely, wrap the vehicle. The only disadvantage to that is when you peel the liner off the wrap, it creates a lot of static. If it's close to the ground, it's very easy for all that dust and dirt to get sucked in between your wrap and paint and look bad. So that's why I like to get the vehicle up off the ground. Can you do it without a lift and taking stuff apart? Absolutely. There's just different techniques involved. There's a million YouTube videos on there on how to wrap without taking stuff apart, how to wrap with taking stuff apart. I'm sure you're going to watch a bunch of them, but this video is more just kind of what to expect and how to prepare you for your first wrap on your vehicle. So disassemble, don't disassemble, completely based on your abilities and mechanical kind of prowess. So you're going to have to make that determination for yourself, depending on your vehicle type, and then kind of make a decision from there. If you do decide to disassemble, I like to have one of these 90-degree wrenches. These are amazing for Tesla front bumpers. And then maybe like a basic drill. That way if you have to take a door panel off or a mirror or something, you at least have some power tools. You can use hand tools too, that's fine. It just goes a lot smoother with power tools. And then in addition to that, you're gonna wanna get some trim tools if you are removing. I just get these cheap Harbor Freight ones. You don't need anything fancy. And then one of these clip removal tools that comes in handy quite well. That way you're not jamming a screwdriver, scratching paint. These plastics aren't really gonna scratch stuff, and they're good to get door panels off for the most part. And then This works really great for like taillights and all that type of stuff too. So some trim removal tools, some clip removal tools, basic hand or power tools. And then depending on what type of vehicle you do, I only work on Teslas. So I just get some clips. That way, if I accidentally break a clip, I can put a new one in there. It's the Tesla brand. You know, I'm not going to get some, you know, generic clip and trying to shove something in there that doesn't fit. But that way, everything goes back together correctly. All right, now let's get into what type of tools we need to wrap a vehicle. I'm gonna kind of go through what I use personally. I'll put links in the description to all this stuff to help you out wrap your vehicle. So magnets. Magnets are gonna be beneficial if you're doing a solo wrap job. That way you can kind of hold the wrap in place while you pull the liner back off of certain panels. This is especially important when it comes to bumpers because it's a big piece of film. It's hard to manage on your own. I like to get these, you know, what are these things called right here? Magnet source magnets. They're really strong, really good for holding a large piece of vinyl like for a bumper. And then I also use these little Foshio magnets right here too. They really come in handy because you can kind of position them to the contour of your vehicle. But magnets are a necessity, especially if you're doing a solo wrap job. And then kind of moving along over here, the first thing you're going to want to look for is a heat gun. This is just a Bauer Heat Gun. You know, it has a variable heat on it and 1 and 2 air blowing strength. I think this thing I got for like 29 bucks on sale at Harbor Freight. You don't need a fancy, you know, $400 heat gun. These Harbor Freight ones work fantastic. I did modify it a little bit. I added a magnet. And why that's important is it keeps it off the dirty ground. So that way, you know, I'm not getting dirt all over my heat gun and on my hands when I'm touching it and pulling the wrap back. I try to avoid dirt as much as possible because I don't want little specks underneath my wrap. And then I also added some fusion heat tape to the end. That way, you know, if you accidentally hit your leg, it's not going to leave a, you know, heat gun brand in you or, you know, burn through your wrap. It's still going to be hot, but it's not going to burn you. And then moving on, I got one of these infrared thermometers. This is really good for post heating. So vinyl wrap has a memory. And if you're wrapping around a complex corner or an edge, you're gonna wanna post heat that edge so it doesn't peel back up because the wrap wants to be flat. Once you post heat it, it kind of gets rid of that memory and that'll allow it to not peel up. Most wraps are about 200 degrees. You know, they're gonna vary a little bit between brands. Do you need this? You absolutely don't need it, but if you want to be 100% sure, then you can get it, but you don't really need this at all. Knifeless tape is very important, especially when you have to do a seamed piece like Tesla front bumpers. You don't want to do in one piece. Can you do it in one piece? You can, but you know, you really risk it lifting up over time. So I like to do a seam in Tesla bumpers. I use knifeless tape. That way I'm not running my knife edge across the paint and scratching the crap out of somebody's vehicle. This is really good also for side mirrors. If you have a really big, complex side mirror, you can do a seam and it's going to give you a nice straight line, not like a, you know, a jagged cut, especially if you have like shaky hands. And you can position it exactly where you want. There's no chance of your knife slipping. You know, you cutting where you don't want to and having to start over again. So I like to use the 3M knifeless tape. There's a finish and design. I like the finish one. It's the strongest knifeless tape you can get. And on the topic of tape, I also use 3M automotive tape. This is really good for like masking around taillights. I mean, I remove them anyway, but if you don't, and you need to cut on a panel, I would tape this off for 2 reasons. 1, so the wrap doesn't stick as well, and 2, so you don't have a nice, you know, sharp knife line across that nice expensive plastic. You could even double layer it too. That way you're cutting into the tape and not into the plastic. Same thing with like door panels. You know, if you're cutting here, I would probably just put some knifeless tape in there. You know, I would just put some knifeless tape in here, like that's what I did. That way you're not, you know, scratching this all up. That way you get a nice straight line right here. It's not all scratched up. And moving on to squeegees. I really like these off-wrap brand squeegees. They have a hard, a soft, and a medium. I really like the medium one. It works great. I would not recommend Amazon squeegees. The felt on them is not very good, especially if you're using a gloss vinyl. You could easily scratch it with those cheaper Amazon felt squeegees. So Off wrap is awesome, and on the topic of off wrap, they also make a lubrication spray where you can spray it right here on this padded part. That way it glides really nice across the film and further reduces the chance of scratching your wrap. Wrap gloves too, these are also off wrap brand. I like having these gloves, that way you can kind of save your fingertips. These are really handy around like panel edges, like door edges, the trunk edges, the hood edges. That way, you know, it slides and glides, and you really save, you know, rubbing your fingers raw. Can you do it with just your hands? You can, but you know, you're gonna really rub your fingers raw. So these are great. They slide really well, reduce the chance of scratching your wrap, and they'll really save your hands in the long run. And then finally, these micro squeegees right here. I really like the cheap Amazon. These are Foshio Brand micro squeegees. I've tried the more expensive ones, and I gotta tell you, like, these are the best right here. I just like these cheap ones. They work out great. And I'm gonna tell you exactly where to use those. So like, when you're tucking film into this area here, it's really nice to have those micro squeegees. Same thing with trying to get the film under that seal. I'll use one squeegee to pull that seal back, and then another squeegee to push the wrap down so it sticks to the panel. And moving on to knives, I got this as off of Amazon. It's just a cheap kind of knife right here. This is for cutting your wrap off of the roll. So this is going to prevent you, you know, if you just use a knife and you cut the wrap, you could just dig that knife, you know, through what you're trying to cut into the roll of wrap, you know, and damage several feet of film. So you don't want that. So this, you know, it only cuts what you're trying to cut. It'll cut the film off of the roll of wrap. And then again, I like to use these 30-degree blades. These are carbon steel blades. It doesn't really matter what brand you get. I personally use the Foshio brand. They seem to work out great. We're just cutting vinyl wrap. You know, we're not trying to, you know, saw, you know, sheet metal in half or something. Vinyl wrap's super easy to cut. So I just use these Foshio blades right here in a 30-degree. The reason why I like the 30-degree, you can kind of get into tighter places than you can with like a regular 90-degree blade. Another tool I use, I really haven't had to use this because all of the brands like 3M, Avery Dennison, KPMF, they all have air release built into their wraps. But if you did have a bubble, you could use this kind of pin and poke a hole and kind of get air out of a bubble. I haven't had to use this before. I got it for a just in case, and it just kind of sits in my toolbox. This is a blade disposal container. You're going to be constantly wanting to use fresh blades and cracking new blades off of here. So I'll kind of show you on here. You just kind of put the blade into here, and then you crack it off, and that way it goes into the container, and your garage doesn't have, you know, carbon steel blade shards all over it. And especially if you have kids, I would highly recommend one of these. You don't want to have, you know, razor blades all over the floor of your garage. And then a tape measure too. I really like these flexible ones. If you just use your regular like carpenter tape measure, it's metal. You could rip a, you know, a hole in the wrap. You could scratch a customer's paint. I like these because they're flexible and they're scratch resistant. Like you're not going to scratch paint if you put this against the paint. You can also tape it to keep it in place as well. This is good for putting emblems back onto cars after you take them off and wrap it. And, you know, determining how many, you know, inches or feet of wrap you need for a certain panel. So I like to use these. You can also wing it, but I like having one of those. They're cheap enough. So that's what I kind of use as far as the tools go to install the wrap. And that's going to cover it for your basic, you know, what to expect and what tools you're going to need for wrapping your car for the first time. This video didn't really go over any special techniques or anything. That's going to vary vastly depending on what type of vehicle you're trying to wrap. If you are wrapping a Tesla, I've got several vehicles of myself wrapping a Tesla. You can kind of watch those. I don't go into detail about techniques, but you can kind of see what I do, you know, and that'll kind of give you an idea. There's a million wrapping Tesla vehicles out there too. But hopefully this helps you out and kind of gives you a basic idea of what to expect before you wrap your vehicle. If you do have any questions, please put those in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. And on that topic, please consider subscribing to the channel for more wrap and window tint content and like the video if you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching and we'll catch you on the next one.